Welcome to my photo channel. Hopefully one or two of my camping channel, outdoor channel subscribers and viewers will pop over and whack a comment and a like and a subscribe to this channel. I don't do very much on this channel at the moment, but you know, hopefully we will do more moving forward. I'm currently filming this on the DJI Action 5. I think it's the Action 5. I kind of lost track of all these different numbers. I think I had the Action 3 and the quality was so poor that I sent it back, and I didn't bother with the Action 4. And I was using GoPro because I normally do camping, outdoor camping type channels, you know, with my tarps and tents and things like that, which I've been doing for, you know, donkey's years. So go and check out that channel. Links below. Name's Tony Hobbs, very easy to find. And I was always using the GoPros, but I noticed that the GoPro, the battery, well, there's two problems with GoPro, unfortunately. One, the battery just really doesn't last, and the DJI battery is really good. It's at least 50% more efficient. Well, I don't know about how much more, to be fair. I haven't got facts and figures, but it is definitely, it lasts a lot longer. The second thing that I like about it is with the GoPro, I was using a Tentacle Sync external recorder, and you'd have to sort of synchronize the two, which, to be fair to GoPro, you actually could, because it could read a barcode which the trackee, which this isn't of course, but which a trackee would put on an app. So it would record that time code, so when you got home you could synchronize the you know, the external audio file to the GoPro file. It wasn't too difficult, but it was, I have to say, it was a bit of a faff. And the problem that I found is that it didn't synchronize it 100%. So each clip, even though it would put it together and it'd be like, this is the outside, there is a, there, you know, it was a bit like that. So it synchronized it, but not exactly. So you had to cut each clip down and then resynchronize each piece. And it kind of took an evening just to do that. And I just don't have the time. I don't make complicated videos or anything like that, but I just didn't have the time. You know, it was too time consuming. So DJI and their mic, it links directly wirelessly to this, so you can hook them up wirelessly and, you know, and then record into this, but it's going directly into that, so there's no time codes. It's very good. But that isn't what we're talking about today. When I was in Scotland a couple of weeks ago, I'm planning, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works out and the parents stay healthy enough. Things are not brilliant there, but I think we've got things in place to help them, so hopefully we're okay. I'm going to Norway later in March this month, and I want to do some recording out there. And actually I've checked the weather and it's not dissimilar to Scottish weather, so to be fair, I probably would still have got away with you know, with the DJI, because it looks like +1 or 2 during the day and -5 or 6 at night at the moment, so it really doesn't look, you know, I was thinking it'd be like -5 by day, which, you know, is only subarctic, but, and then like -15 or something like that at night. But I don't think it's going to be so cold. But when I was in Scotland and I had my gloves on and I was trying to operate the buttons on the DJI, it's not so easy to operate them. It's much easier. I will say the GoPro buttons with gloves are easier to turn on and off. It's just in the cold, the GoPro lasted like 5 minutes, even with the new battery. And I've always hankered after the Nikon Z8. I really hanker after the Z9 as well, to be fair, but we're going to have, you know, I've got to be a bit sensible. Not that I've ever been sensible, but basically, camera-wise, what I've been using for a camera when I've come out, and to be fair, I haven't really taken many photos in the last 15 years either, but for camera-wise, what I've tended to be half using, one photo a year on a camera. I tend to use the phone a lot more, but I've tended to use, I had a Sony NEX7, and then I had a Sony 3400. I don't know if I had something in between those two or not, I can't remember. And now I've got the Sony A6700, which, to be fair, is also it's a very nice camera. I like it a lot. I've used it for video. I think it's decent for video. I think you can get really good results out of it. I think I just haven't got it, you know, completely set up properly or something, but it just seems a bit flat to me, but I think it's decent enough. I think that's clearly me, not the camera. I mean, you know, I mean, I've seen videos shot on the A6700 and they're superb, so that's not the camera. But at heart, I've just always been a Nikon shooter. You know, my sort of camera story goes back to really when I was at school, and the teacher, I always had a point and shoot or something simple like that, and the teachers kind of knew I was interested in taking photographs in the 80s. And I remember on one school trip we were out, and I think another kiddie, his camera broke, and I think the teacher said to him, well, go and see Tony. You'll know how to. I mean, I couldn't fix it, it was some mechanical problem, but it was just interesting, you know, that the teacher Tony, the teacher's pet, you know, that the teacher said, "Oh, go and see Tony, he'll help you with your camera." And then when I was like at junior school, well, yeah, no, that was still junior. Yeah, no, that was infant. No, that was infant school. That one. And then at junior school, I got one of those small, like automatic cameras, but it was like a half frame. Because I just took like loads and loads and loads of photographs. I've always been very lucky, to be fair, because my dad was a pharmacist back then. So any pictures that I took, I just gave them to my dad, and he'd get them developed for me. And obviously he never charged or anything. So I did get very, very lucky. So I did get we got very lucky. Well, you weren't around then. This is Bella, by the way. She's 5, coming up to 6 months old now. You're going to be 6 months old soon. You're getting old now, aren't you? Yeah, so I had a half frame camera, so that kind of helped, because then you'd have a 36 roll and you could take like 72 photographs. Although, as my dad always pointed out, you might be buying one film, but it costs twice as much to develop them, because I take like hundreds of photographs. So I kind of had that, and then I went to secondary school, and basically at secondary school I did a bit of photos in the first couple of years, and then we had to do the Duke of Edinburgh, and I did the bronze, and I did photography. Steady. And I did photography. Wait, steady. I did photography. No. No biting. Leave it. Go back. Go back a minute. Bella, go back. Bella, go back a minute. Let's, Bella, go back. That is literally, I have squashed it. That's a tick that was walking up my, trouser leg. I think I'm going to, I don't really have a problem with them digging in. But I think as I'm in the grass and I've seen one on my trousers, I'm going to put my socks in there. Yeah, so that was at, so I did the Duke of Edinburgh Award, and I did photography in that. And I wanted a Canon because my dad's father, he had a Canon. So I kind of wanted a Canon, but I looked at his, and ironically now I've got a big Nikon, and I kind of fell in love with big Nikons, but it was like a big chunky, heavy, very mechanically, obviously it was completely mechanical, obviously, but it looked very daunting. So, you know, I don't know, I don't know, I like Canon. I don't know the first thing about them, to be fair. I've never touched or used a Canon. So I kind of saw that one and I kind of thought, I don't know if I like that very much. And then when I did the Duke of Edinburgh Award thingamybobs, I went to a local camera store, and he like taught me the basics, which I've probably forgotten, never really understood or anything. But he kind of taught me the basics, and he said, I wanted to get a Nikon then, and he said, oh, you'd be just as well off getting like a cheap Konica and seeing how you get on with that. So I got a Konica, and I think I got a couple of lenses with it. Probably bought them from him, I expect. And to be fair, it worked okay. I can't say the quality was particularly brilliant. It was okay. And then I left school, and I did a 2-day photography course thing in Bath, and for that I wanted another camera for that, and it was really kind of funny because obviously Sony wasn't around back in those days. It was trying to say Minolta. I was trying to say Monica or something. I was trying to play with Monica's fiddly bits. No, Minolta. But Minolta didn't appeal to me at all, although they seem to be very innovative in their stuff. So I got a Nikon F801S, I think was the one I got then. And I think back then I had some Sigma lenses. I don't know, I think I had a Tamron lens way back then. I think the Tamron lens I had maybe with the Konica. I don't know whether the Konica, I used Konica lenses or Tamron lenses. I never really liked them, to be fair. I think third-party lenses now have come a very long way. But personally, I never liked them, and I personally never touched them. But that's because I'm a bit of a snob, maybe. But I got this F801S, and probably a Sigma lens, because I think I'd upgraded from Tamron to Sigma at the time. And I remember going to an air show with the 801S and a Sigma lens, and I remember it was like Fairford or something like that. And I remember the chap next to me, he had a Nikon F4. And I remember looking at that F4 thinking, flipping it, that looks a really, really nice lens. He was just an amateur. He wasn't a professional. I think he just, got it because he wanted to. It was kind of my understanding. And he'd put a Sigma lens on his, and he was probably the first person that I spoke to that said that he liked the Sigma lens, but his mistake was spending a fortune on the camera and then not having enough money to get a decent lens, although I'm sure that Sigma was decent enough. I also remember, I think I got a 400mm Tamron lens once, and the quality of that was it was shocking. It was really poor. I mean, you got, like I say, you're going back to the early 90s now, but that was really, really poor. I was really disappointed with that. And then after the f801S, like I said, I saw that f4, and I really hankered after a bigger camera. I don't really know. I don't think I was compensating for anything, but I just really wanted, you know, I just liked, you know, the idea of a bigger camera in my something big in my hand, something big to grab hold of. Let's keep it to cameras, don't we? So, although actually I prefer small. Anyway, let's get back to cameras quickly. Yeah, I don't like those big juggy things. Horrible. Give you a black eye. Anyway, quickly back to cameras. Yeah, so I got an f5, and then after the f5, I had that for years. I got an FM2, and the reason why I got the FM2 is that it was completely mechanical. So if anything happened, because I used to travel overseas in the 90s, I was just freelance. So I used to travel overseas in the 90s, and I wanted a backup camera for the f5 if I had no power, you know, or anything like that, that I had a mechanical camera. So I got the FM2, but I very rarely used it. It really was a backup reserve camera. It got very little use. But the f5 I used a lot. I used that a lot between, I don't know, mid-90s. I don't know when it came out, 95, 96, 97, something around there, I guess. So I got it quite quickly after it came out. And then I used that really probably until about 2003, 4. I was really slow moving into digital. I really didn't want to do the you know, the switch over from, you know, slides and things like that. That was my comfort zone, and I didn't really understand all this digital stuff. And then obviously I think it was probably about 2004, that was when I started making this, you know, the switch over, because that's when cameras, I think before that the cameras were decent, but were, you know, very much a developmental thing. So I got the D300, I think it was the D300, and I used that quite a lot, you know, 2003, 4, 5. I used that a lot, and that was a really, really nice camera. It was a crop frame sensor. So it was kind of a little bit strange for me going from 35mm to a crop sensor. I've never really, I don't know, again, maybe it's a little bit of a snob in me, but I've never really liked the crop sensor. Again, I think they're very good, and I think you can get very, very good results out of them. So I'm not knocking them, I'm just simply, you know, I think they are very good. I just not a big fan. I just prefer full frame. So anyway, I found that the results with the D300 were decent, and I got DX lenses. So I got the lenses, the cropped lenses as it were, to go, you know, on there. So I basically kind of went from, you know, the F-mount F lenses, well, they were all F lenses obviously, weren't they? But I kind of went from the full frame lenses, and then when I got the D300, that's when I then switched. That's when I sort of started, you know, reinvesting in glass. And then obviously at that point, I then, you know, I got some DX lenses because they matched the camera. Maybe would have been better off getting the full frame lenses, because obviously if you get a DX lens, you can use it on a full frame camera, But obviously if you do that, then the camera automatically crops, so you don't get the full frame effect of it. After that, the D750 came out, and that was a full frame, and it was one of Nikon's, answer below, but I think it was Nikon's first, or one of their first full frame censored cameras. So I got I really wanted that, so I got the D750. The problem was the lenses that I had for the D300, and I had, I think, 2 at least, were obviously DX lenses, cropped, you know, crop sensor lenses, so I wasn't able to use the full frame effect of the D750, and that's when I bought the Holy Trinity back then, which was the, and if you know your Nikon stuff, you'll know what I'm talking about. I got the 14 to 24 2.8, which I've still got. I got the 24 to 70 2.8. I've still got it. I'm not sure if I upgraded to the newer one. I don't think I did. I think I've still got the original one. But these were nano coated lenses. This was really when lens technology sort of took that extra step from, you know, from the lenses before those. And then I also got the 70 to 200 2.8. I think now I would get away more easily. Well, I would have got away with, I didn't need 2.8 glass back then, to be fair, but you know, somehow I read about those lenses, and they were the ones that I had to get. So over a year or so, I got those 3 lenses, and I do remember 2008 going to Scotland and taking the D750, and I definitely had the 14 to 24 lens on that camera, and that was a really good camera, you know. So if anyone is looking for a bargain price older digital camera, you know, I could really recommend the D750. It was a really good camera. The quality on it with good glass, it was superb. It was really, really sharp. And then around about that time, I also got the 200 to 400 f4, and that was a really nice lens. And I've still got that one. It's a big, heavy, quite heavy. But that's a nice. It's probably the quality of those lenses now. Probably back then was superb, but I'm very sure that lens technology in the last 20 years has moved on a lot, you know, since those days. But they were really good sharp lenses, and I just took loads and loads of photographs of things, and I tended to send them to photo libraries. Back then, the photo library business was decent. I mean, I'm not saying you got much out of it. You didn't. It really wasn't much. You know, but it would pay for a couple of supermarket meals a month, or, you know, things a month or something. So, you know, it was all right. My parents helped me. And then the world kind of caved in 2010, and I never really took many more photographs after that. But anyway, that's when I started doing video. That's when kind of this started, and when, hang on, let's have you pointing to me, and when videoing coming out here kind of started. So that's a very brief rundown. I was going to talk about, and we will talk about, the Z8. And I think this video has gone on so long, I think I'm going to make a cup of tea, and then we'll talk about, and then we'll do more specifically on the Z8, because this was going to be a Z8 video, but we kind of sidetracked ourselves. But basically, I wanted to use, I find the buttons fiddly on that. I always wanted, I kind of always wanted to upgrade to the new mirrorless Nikon. And Nikon have been behind Sony and Canon. They were just very, very slow in the mirrorless thing. That's why I kind of went over to Sony, and I still keep the Sony A700, certainly for the foreseeable future, because it is obviously a lot lighter than this. That's the thing. It's a much, even though it's still quite big and heavy, it's, compared to an action camera which I use for, vlogging when I'm camping, it's still clearly a lot smaller and lighter. Basically the A6700 is lighter with a lens, is lighter than just the camera, than just the Z8, that, and then you've got to put a lens on it. It's a complete different step. I could have got the Z6 III, I believe, is a really good Nikon camera now, and the Z7 II, or whatever generation that's on now, I don't know the generations of these. I do believe that they have really come on. I think the early iterations of those cameras, I think the original Z6, I don't think it was very good. But I do think that the later generations have, I think Nikon have, sort of caught up now, and I think they are pretty much equal with Sony and Canon, with mirrorless. And like I said, I just wanted a camera. I'm in the Nikon sphere, although I'll probably end up changing all the glass in time, to Z mount, because obviously, unfortunately, after 50, 60, 70 years of F mount, and Nikon never, altering the F mount. I think the other manufacturers altered their mounts once or twice in their 50, 60 years, but Nikon never did. But now they have for this. I think the reason is because when the mirror was in the camera, this is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that because the mirror went flippity flip, flippity flop, obviously you needed the space for your for the mirror to flip flop. But now there's no mirror, so I think the sensor is closer to the lens. So of course you can still use f-mount lenses, but you have to put a little converter between the camera body and the lens to give it that little extra distance so that they will work. I think it's something to do with that. But like I said, I've just always gone for the higher end. Maybe it's a snob in me coming out, I don't know, but I've just always liked the higher end stuff whenever I can wangle a way around to get it. So I didn't really want the Z6. The Z7 was kind of like middle of the road, bit pointless really. So I didn't see the point of that. It just had to be the Z8. The Z9, I think it looks a really, really nice camera. And after my experience of actually I forgot one other camera there. And after my experiences of the F5, and I'm really enjoying using that lens, that camera, I would like to get another full-bodied camera one day. But to be fair, for what I do, it's really not worth it. That's not to say I never would, but for what I do at the moment, it's not worth it. Yeah, I got the D4 as well. When the D4 came out in about 2012, I knew I wasn't taking photographs. I'd pretty much, like it said, everything changed in 2010. And I just didn't really take photographs after that. But the D4 came out, and I was always hoping that the photo thing would return, and it still hasn't really fully, to be fair. So we're probably not going to get a huge amount on this channel, but I've always enjoyed it, you know, and one day, you know, we will try and do more photo stuff. So like I said, yeah, the D4 came out and I had an opportunity to get it, kind of thinking, I had the F5. The D4 obviously is a full-bodied professional camera, and I was kind of thinking, well, the F5 now is old technology. I like the full-bodied professional sized camera. Let's get it. I was able to get it. Let's get it. And I just sadly just didn't really use it. I'll bet the frame counter on it's probably in the hundreds. I just didn't use it much. It's a shame. But I would probably say I should have sold it several years ago and probably would have got a few thousand back for it. Now I'll sell it. So, like I said, now I'm switching over to this. I think some of that older stuff I will slowly, you know, upgrade to. Oh, blimey, like I even missed some other stuff as well. Yeah, so I had the D750, and then I think the D800 came out, and that was probably around about, 2012, something like that. So I did get that, and then the D850 came out. And when the D800 came out, I was hoping that the video on it would be decent, but it was diabolical. And then when the D850 came out, I was like thinking, okay, well, Nikon must have learnt from the D800 that the video was shocking, and they must have developed and put time and effort into the D850. It has to be better. So I got the D850 and the video was shocking on it. And that kind of just put me off then. I kind of thought, well, Nikon just clearly can't do video at the moment. And then obviously Sony then, you know, they got the video thing in the NEX7, the 6400, and so Sony kind of really did get the video thing. But they were mirrorless, and obviously the D850 was still your flippy floppy thing. It's different technology, and again, I just didn't really use the D800. I probably just didn't really use it at all. The D850, which I've still got, I haven't used that very much either. Anyway, that's my history. I'm going to Norway. I'm taking the Z8 with me, which I'll show in another video now, in a minute. So yes, I've got the Z8 and I've still got the D850, and that's what I'm going to take to Norway, and we'll try and get a few photographs out there. We might try and do a bit of video taking photographs out there. I don't really know what's going to happen when I'm there. My original plan was, you know, I'm going to do a bit of cross-country skiing and try that, and I want to try and do some videoing of, you know, how much videoing of me skiing I can do, I don't know, but in camp and, you know, stuff like that. And then I think that just this thought process of camera, video, and then I suddenly started thinking, well, actually, let's take the camera and maybe we can photograph something out there. So I've got this camera with the 24 to 120 f4, and I wasn't going to order anything else, but someone, a YouTuber in America, Hudson, I think, I've been watching some of his videos on cameras, and he replied to a comment, because I said I was thinking of taking my 200 to 400 out, and he said the new 100 to 400 4.5 to 5.6 was a smaller, lighter and better lens than the old 200 to 400 f4. And I kind of looked into it a little bit, and I've gone and bugger, I've ordered that as well. But if you look online, Cotswolds camera. They do some really nice prices. Read the small print though before you do. But yeah, Cotswolds cameras, really nice prices. But I mean, the thing is though, I've never had a Nikon break on me, and they do their own warranty. So I don't, you know, I'd rather get something a bit cheaper, and I know it's just reliable kit anyway. So yeah, I'm not really in a position to be paying the full prices. If I'd have been having to pay full price for this, I wouldn't have done it. But like I said, you know, check out the prices of Cotswolds cameras. They're nice. They're very sweet. Obviously I paid the full price. They didn't do any. But I'm just simply meaning that the online prices are very good compared to like what you get in other stores in here. Anyway, that's really my camera thing. I've waffled enough on that. I'm going to make a cup of tea and then we'll talk about the Z8. And then we need to start packing up a little bit and heading over in that direction.